G'day guys, and welcome to episode 4 of the podcast. Today, my guest is ARIA award-winning producer / drummer, Chris Blancato. Chris's power and command behind the kit is something I've always greatly admired about him, and what he brings to the table as a producer is equally, if not more, impressive. Chris and I have a great chat about music, his work with Aussie metal legends Northlane, the final destination moment he had with his ARIA while vacuuming, and his earth-shattering band, Barebones. As always, if you'd like to keep up to date with everything Chris is doing, you can follow the links in the description below, and please like and subscribe if you haven't already. But for now, please enjoy episode 4 of Picking Bones with Hugh L. Jones.
Can I do it as well?
No, you're good. It'll pick up everywhere.
Yeah. Cool.
Chris Blancato.
Hello.
Bro, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, bro.
It's nice.
It's been way too long since we've caught up.
I was thinking about that on the way over here. I was like, it could be like even pre-pandemic since I've seen you last.
Oh my God, I hope not.
I got a feeling it might have been a Frankie's gig.
Yes.
And Wolf Creek were playing and Barebones were playing. And
I remember that gig.
yeah, it was one of their Sunday night specials.
Yeah, that's right. God, that was fun. Was that pre-pandemic?
I think so, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And because
Actually, I think it might have been, it might have been, there was like a show that happened, which was I think a end of lockout laws show that they did.
Yes.
I think it might have been that.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know, I can't remember.
Yeah, man, it was because speaking of Barebones, and that's actually one thing I want to talk to you about, so let's jump right into it. You guys have been a bit less active than in years gone by.
Yeah.
But I noticed on your Instagram that you're playing a show with Cancer Bats in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's, I think that might be the third time we've done shows with them. We seem to have gotten the first, it wouldn't be the first time they came out, but one of the maybe I think maybe 6 years ago or something, 7 years ago, they'd come out to do a tour, and there was another one that they did, and then this will be the third one. But every time we've done it, we've always had some friends around as well, like Fangs guys were one of the last ones.
That's right.
And then they're doing these ones as well.
Did you play that show as well with Fangs, or was it just Fangs?
No, we did it as well.
That's right. Then I saw you at that.
Wait, was that post?
I think it was, because that was a Crowbar, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was post-pandemic. Must have been.
I'm all over the place, man.
Well, that time kind of ruined everyone's internal clock, I think.
And yeah, it's weird. You're a band before it, and you're a band after it, and you're also a band which has been around for 11 years at that point. There's all these moving parts of shifting, everyone's shifting times in their lives. People are getting married, they're having kids, or they're taking new leaps in their career, or, they're doubling down on music, whatever it is that's happening. And then you throw pandemics on top of it, and then everything's just a little bit confusing about wait, hold on, what stage of being in a band am I in now?
Totally.
It's just so, and yeah, on top of that, the timeline just throws me every time we're talking about it. So you get a band like Cancer Bats where we've done 2 or 3 runs, not runs, but shows with them, sets of shows. And I can't remember, I can't tell the difference between the first one, the second one, or the third one that's happening. It's all different.
It's a Crowbar this time again?
Yeah, we got one at Crowbar, and then there's one in Canberra as well. So
hell yeah.
We haven't been down to Canberra in years. I want to say it's again 5 or 6 years at least.
And what's the date for the Sydney show? I'm asking because I'm going to be there.
The 16th.
16th.
I hope I got that right. 16th of June.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be right. We're talking about band practice and stuff today, so it must be June, not
July. Do we need to look it up?
Probably a safe bet. I think it's 16th and 17th of June.
Let's double check. Barebones. Because for anyone listening, 16th the Crowbar. Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. So perfect.
Yeah. Whoops,
awesome.
Sorry.
Well, I'll definitely be there, man. That's really exciting.
Cool. I get to see you twice in 1 year.
Yeah.
How's that?
Twice in a month. We're already in June, bro.
Yeah.
Aren't we lucky?
Yeah. Well, the other thing too I was thinking about as well is like, I don't know if like this setting of being able to actually have like a coherent conversation with someone when you're in like Sydney music scene or any music scene, like I'm pretty sure 90% of our conversations have been in the corner of a loud music venue yelling at each other.
I think you're 100% right.
Getting half of it, you know, can't tell what you've said, can't tell what you're hearing. Like, yeah. So it's nice to actually sit down and actually have a proper, you know.
It's that classic moment when someone says something to you and you didn't hear them and you go, totally, man. Yeah, totally.
I think you said that, you know, like piece together the before and after. And yeah.
But yeah, man, it's going to be great to see you guys again because it's been a minute. And so you've been focusing mostly on production. That's kind of been your main push in life.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that I don't I don't take, you know, playing seriously. I definitely do. But for me, like when you're doing it with 4 or 5 other people, I feel like it's a little harder to get everybody on the same page. It's just the essence of all teamwork.
100%.
You know? And everybody's pulling in different directions. And I think it's really easy when you're 15 or 16 or 18 or whatever, and you're like, we're going to go take over the world. Music's our thing. That's it. We're just going to take over the world with this band. The further in, and this is something I'm starting to appreciate more as the years go on, is it's not just, everyone turning into dads and, losing interest in it. It just becomes harder to get everyone on the same page.
Totally.
So for me, like production has been a really good staple in my life to have a constant creative outlet and be able to be committed to music and committed seriously, but it's up to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I don't need to, how many times have we had the old scenario of, bands doing well, seeing aside they don't want to do it anymore.
Yep.
There's 2, 3, 4, 5 years you've put into it and the rug's kind of swept out from under you.
Man, so. You're preaching to the choir. In fact, in the last podcast I did with Tommy, we talked about exactly this. So for anyone who's watched that episode or listened to that episode, I'm going to say this again. My favorite thing about doing this podcast is exactly what you're referring to, because if anything good comes of it, it's because I've worked at it. If something doesn't, then it's the same thing.
Well, then there's a responsibility as well.
100%. And I've got nobody to blame, nobody to lean on.
Yeah.
But also simultaneously, nobody to kind of slow things down, because that can happen a lot. And that's just, the nature of teamwork, I
don't say any of that like with a grudge or anything. Like I don't blame anybody for having their own set of priorities. I'd be quite horrified if like I knew that I was putting pressure on other people to follow my dream of what I wanted to do if that's not exactly what they wanted to do.
Yeah. So
it's got nothing to do with like that kind of stuff, but it's just been easier for me to focus on it's not a one-man job, because there is always like the teamwork that you have with the people you're doing production with, like the artists you're working with, but they're short term. They have like they're bookended very nicely of like projects done, projects completed. Here's something new, and a new a new team to work with. You go and do it all over again. But with bands, it's a little bit more complex than that. In saying that, like I have a lot of fun.
Of course.
So much fun working with Bare Bones and those guys as well. Is like so like I always forget how much over 10 years or even more in for instance JD, like one of our guitarists. I've been playing music with him since I was in high school. So it's like even bands beforehand, like you don't realize how much you get to know someone from playing in a band for that amount of time. Little character things, them as musicians, them as performers. There's a lot of comfort that comes with that as well. Mm-hmm. And I always forget how well I know those guys and how how much we've kind of like done together just through so many different periods of our life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's something that probably will be there for a lot longer.
And times that you can't ever replace, and you take the good with the bad, you know. And I think this is sort of what you're touching on as well. I also don't want to throw anybody under the bus, and I don't want to blame anybody and point fingers, which I'm not saying that's what you're doing either. Certainly not. But there, for every drawback, there's a positive element as well to go along with it. And it's things like that. It's getting to know somebody on a different level than you know almost anybody in your life, you know. And the experiences you guys gather together. And I mean, and quite frankly, you know, dude, Bare Bones, easily one of my favorite Sydney bands. I mean, no, seriously, like I'm not trying to, you know, inflate the ego too much, but you guys are phenomenal when you play. And every time I see you, I'm reminded, I'm like, oh, these guys are fucking as legit as it comes.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Of course. But that comes from 10 plus years, as you just said, of playing together constantly and you know, all that trust that you build and all that kind of knowledge of each other, and then it becomes this kind of like unstoppable force.
Yeah, well, it's momentum. It's momentum. And I hear of like, obviously because I'm working with different people every week, I get a real insight to how other bands operate and their fears and their anxieties, the things that they love, their strengths, their weaknesses. And the anxiety that I hear a lot of bands, they'll be like, oh, you know, we're working on this track now, we're about to go on tour, and you know, we're feeling a little bit weird about how it's going to go down, not sure if it's going to be how we're going to play. I don't have any of those fears or anxieties. Weirdly, I've never had like nervousness from going on stage, or never had nervousness for anyone else, like on behalf of them in the band as well. And I think that comes from that. It's like there's this level of predictability that you have about what's about to happen when you go on stage. Sure, tech things happen.
Things outside of your control.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
But
why bother worrying about them?
yeah, exactly. But the little things that grab you about how it's going to happen or how it's going to go down, I don't get that with people that you've been doing it for. with people that you've been doing it with for 10 years. You know,
I think that's also preparedness, you know, and that is one thing that watching you play in that band especially, you always gave off an energy, still do obviously, but give off an energy when you play of true preparedness. I think it shows that you're not nervous. It shows that you're not distracted or worried or concerned, because you know your parts like the back of your hand clearly, and you trust everybody else who's on that stage is going to do their job, and you just hold it down. And it's really special to watch, actually, because you're not the flashiest drummer in terms of, you're not doing stick tricks and throwing your hair around so much. But every time I watch you, I just love the rock solid energy that you bring in. It's really cool.
Well, yeah, it's really easy to be prepared and really easy to tackle that stuff before you have to learn is a few AC/DC beats.
Well, you say
Keep
that.
it bare bones, right?
Yeah, fair enough. And you say that, but I mean, how many musicians don't do their homework? I mean, how many people rock up to rehearsal and be like, oh, I didn't learn the song, I'm sorry.
Sometimes, but yeah,
Sure.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Like there's like a part of that decision to play like that or write parts like that is part of the preparation, I guess.
Sure.
You know, it's the preparation isn't always working out all the chops for every part that you have to do. It's sometimes just preempting. Like for me, it's a joke. It is a joke, the whole thing about like bare bones drums are just basic as shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I definitely lean into it, but there actually is a bit of method to the madness with that. It's that I know that I can get up and play that better than I can play fast, crazy, complex stuff.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, if I can do that better, I will be able to have a better show, and whoever's in the audience trying to bop along, do whatever they're going to be doing, tapping their feet.
Well, isn't that also part of the the responsibility of a drummer, is to make people move. I mean, cool. Like you can be as complex as you like with polyrhythms and metric modulation and get as techie with your fills as you want. And it has a place in a lot of bands.
Yeah.
Of course it does. But in a, I mean, what genre would you describe Bare Bones? Sort of punk rock or hardcore?
Yeah, it was closer to that earlier on. Now it's definitely falling more into like the metal categories. But
even still, it's like solid. Even though it's metal, it's still big fat riffs, big solid drums.
Yeah,
and that's, I would imagine, much more likely going to make people move and dance and get into it, because pretty hard to dance to 9/8 metric modulation with a really crazy polyrhythm fill ending the section.
And another thing too is the influence of where we play and what we do. We share the same venues. Most of the venues that I'm playing, you're playing, like there's a handful of them in Sydney, a handful of them in Australia, really. I know how those venues sound.
Yeah.
Those venues are snare drum, cymbals, and whatever vocal can cut through on the PA. Unfortunately, as much as I don't love it, no one's like getting a really clear picture of how guitars are sounding. Sometimes there's bass if you've got a decent PA. But it's important that stuff, if it falls on the audience only hearing one thing and it's drums, it's just got to be good.
Yeah.
It's got to be able to make up the picture and know what's going on. If people can't hear what the song is, at least if they can get a pulse out of it, that's just at least something that they can get.
So this is probably where my ignorance comes into play. Obviously I have a lot of experience in these venues like you do, but I don't have the same engineer/producer ear that you have. What do you think would be a solution to this problem? I mean, if it seems like a common problem in all these venues, some of them have great PAs. I mean, some of them have the capacity to fix this. Is it an engineer issue? Is it a settings issue? How would one fix this?
I can get some hot water here with getting too nerdy and too technical. So I try to keep it. I try to keep it a little bit like a little easier to listen to, I guess. But it's a little bit of the nature of the beast, really.
Mm-hmm.
Liken it to thinking about when you go to see a band in like the Horden or these 5,000 or 6,000 head rooms. The room is so big that the amount of sound which is coming off the stage is so small in ratio compared to what the size of the PA needs to be, or the volume of the PA needs to be to fill the room and cover everyone in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to go to a 150 head room, say somewhere like, I don't know, somewhere like Frankie's or the Duke or something like that, and expect that there's going to be isolation between what's happening on stage versus and the audience. That drum kit is always going to be the loudest thing in the room.
Yeah.
It's gotten better, I think, since more guitarists are now going to like digital rigs where there's no cabs on stage. Same with bass players as well. But I don't know if it's something that can be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, go play bigger rooms.
Yeah, right.
Maybe it's that.
Get more people buying tickets to your band, man. It's easy. Yeah. Just figure that out.
Just do that. What do you mean? What do you mean? Why are you playing 150 head rooms? Play 500
Just sell 5,000 tickets, man. Come on.
Yeah, just do that. You got 5,000 friends, don't you?
Yeah. At least maybe your mum's got 5,000 friends.
Yeah.
Somebody in your family.
Yeah. But there's too much screaming, right?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I don't know. Like I'd love every venue, no matter how big or small, to have that crystal clear sound. But it's just a bit of a thing. It's kind of the vibe, and it is part of the vibe as well.
Yeah, of course.
There's a little lack of like sterileness when you have like someone a meter away from you screaming in your face, and you can hear like the guitar amp over there, and cymbals are kind of like eating your face because it's so bright and it's just it's kind of part of it, I guess.
Part of like the underground scene experience.
Yeah. And how many people do we know? I mean, I'm definitely someone who loves really good sound and really big venues, and I love that experience. But how many of us know that those musicians and those bands would just love playing dirty, like gritty shows? They just love and floor shows and shows without much production, and just, you know, they'll play in someone's backyard and they'll love it, you know.
Totally. Some
people just are really striving for that. So I think it keeps a little bit of that essence in there, which is nice.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah, because I mean, even we get further and further down the line with our musical career as a band. It gets bigger and we play better shows, and you can, as you say, kind of get into this sort of more nerdy technical side of things. And then you go and play a backyard show, and it's almost like transporting back to being 15, 16 years old, playing some of your first ever gigs to your mates. And it's got that visceral kind of experience about it. So I see, I get what you're saying. I went and saw a show last weekend. I won't say who it was because it wasn't their fault. I don't think it was anyone's fault in particular, but it was at quite a smaller venue. I won't even mention the venue either because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. But they were a band that relied heavily on tracks.
Yeah, yeah.
And which is just the way things are going these days, obviously. And the sound just fucking sucked. Like, you know, it was. There was the band lineup was drums, real guitar, a synth player, vocals, and then everything else on tracks. And the tracks were just almost non-existent for the first 3 songs. They eventually got to a point where you're like, okay, I get it. But in the little breakdowns, there was, you know, just vocals, and there's supposed to be this big kind of synthy operatic thing going on that's really impressive and beautiful on the recording. And live, it's just like, man, surely there's just a fader that the sound guy can just turn up.
Yeah, and I guess like a little bit of devil's advocate there is that there's the more complex we get into music, and music is quite complex now. Like even the stuff that you've been working on in the last 5 years or so, it's not the amount of production and the amount of density. Density is really actually the word I'm looking for. Density in music now it's not actually complexity. It's density. It's such a thing. You know, you can't really get away with. Well, you can get away with it, but it's not really normal at the moment to have 2 guitars, drums, bass, and maybe a little bit of synth or keys come in. It's everything's
full
layered.
production.
Yeah, everything's got a lot in it. So, and I understand why people want to be able to create that live and be able to take that from the studio to the stage. But there's so many moving parts that come with it now. Those tracks those tracks need to be prepared properly. They need to be done in a way which is easy for a front of house engineer to be able to work with on the night, never hear the band, not know what else is. So that one fader is a fader they can turn up and go,
gotcha.
It's cool. So they might have that one fader to work with, but what's on that fader? Well, who knows?
Well, and that's the other. Okay, yeah, it's a really good point actually, and maybe that was just me being a bit sort of short-sighted. But every band, especially heavy band, loves a good 808 drop.
Oh yeah,
you know, and how loud is that going to be? Is that going to blow the whole PA for the whole night? And then you know, the scary thing for I'm sure for a sound guy. And
like, I think the onus kind of comes back to the band at that point. It's that if you want to dive down that I mean, every drummer wants to make sure that their drums are in tune and want to go on stage without broken cymbals, most of them. You know, guitars working. You would go to that level of detail to make sure that the rest of the band sounds really good.
Yeah.
Don't skimp on tracks if tracks are a big part of your sound.
It seems like a last minute thing that I think some bands do, and I'm guilty of having done that before myself, because, you know, you finish recording, you get the tracks, let's play the new song live tonight, guys. We've got this gig. I'll quickly just I've got the stems. I'll just quickly make something, chuck it on the device, whatever, using a laptop or whatever. And then you're like, okay, here we go. It's like, yeah, but you probably should get, and that's another thing. Like, you've paid all this money to a producer, you've paid all this money to a PA agency, you spent all this time writing the song, you spent all this time getting it so perfect, and then you do a rush job in 5 minutes because you got to do the gig tonight.
And isn't that a big thing about being in a band as well though? Like we place so much importance on making sure that the promotion is right for the new music. It's recorded so well, it sounds perfect. And then we throw it out into this like sea of streaming and other content that's out in the world. Fingers crossed, hoping for it to do well. Yet really, you can go and play in front of 150 people and you're one of 3 or 4 bands there that people like. The level of exposure in terms of like your potential audience at a show to likelihood of them paying attention is so much higher.
Yeah.
Yet it always becomes kind of second fiddle to the recording. It's like, oh, it's just a show. We don't worry about the backing tracks. It doesn't worry about it.
Absolutely.
Worry about it because you have an opportunity at that point, even though it is tougher and harder to get people off the couch and away from Netflix for a night. When they do get there, they're committed. They paid money. They want to go to the show. Impress them.
And you want them to then leave and then go tell 10 friends each, I saw this amazing band on Saturday night, bro. You got to check them out.
Yeah.
And that's when having all your ducks in a row online help as well, because then you go check them out. Oh, they do sound good. I'll make sure I go to the next show. You know, and then you impress those. And I mean, we're talking about pretty obvious growth here. But
I feel really guilty about saying things like that because it's like, oh, look, man, you're just sounding like a 35-year-old you are. You know, like it just, you starting to sound old school but it really is. It really is such an important thing that just gets overlooked. Like it doesn't just because the climate's changed a little bit in live music in the last decade or so. Makes it more important that you capitalize on who's there at the time and what they're there for.
Okay, so this is a really good segue actually, because I went and saw North Lane at the Enmore Theatre a couple of months ago, about 3 or 4 months ago.
The Dante tour, wasn't it? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think the EP had come out yet. It was just it was on the back of a couple of the singles.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Firstly, for anybody who's listening who doesn't know, you've had a huge hand in producing that band in the last few years. How much of that show falls into your responsibility, or not at all? Are you just kind of in the studio, or are you sort of in charge of their live sound as well?
No, they have an entire team dedicated for all that stuff. But one thing I will say about the North Lane guys is they're incredibly, I guess, holistic about the way that they approach things. So there's not even though the conversation and the dialogue may not be concrete in the studio at that time, there is always in the back of the head a little bit about, okay, this move that is about to happen right now, this way we do it. How is it going to happen live? What's it going to sound like live? Is it going to translate? Is it going to hit? Is it going to hit hard? Is it going to create the vibe of what is intended at that time?
Sure.
So I wouldn't say that it's like the things that you witness at a North Lane show are things that are overly calculated, but they're definitely it's not at this studio land and live land with those guys. Like, I mean, it's the same with every professional band, really, isn't it? Like,
sure.
They're up to 7? Is it 7? 8? 7 releases under their belt.
Yeah.
Or studio releases. A career that's been around for 13, 14 years now, maybe even longer.
Because that show was incredible.
Yeah,
it was amazing. And the sound was incredible. I mean, of course, they play really good and they've got great songs and they've been around for so long now. And, none of that was a surprise. But I was blown away by the sound and the visuals too. That's a different discussion, obviously.
Man, their stage production is like
amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like
I remember the first time I saw them, what I would say was a step up was I think it was Not Fest.
Oh yeah, where they have the screens.
Yeah. Well, they had those at the Enmore too. Or similar.
Yeah.
But I saw them for the first time. I was like, Jesus, man, these guys are stepping it up.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it would cost to even rent those things for a show.
Well, I remember it would have been the Enmore show before that one that you went to. which is like as part of the Obsidian tour, so
Yeah.
the album before, like the amount of lights and the amount of production that was added at that point. They had this like blank stage, no backline on stage, is really like sleek, clean looking thing. Lasers, pyro, what do they call those? Concussion boxes, I think they're called, or like whatever it is, sparks. Like the whole thing was there, and it was just like it was another experience.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, especially for me, like I heard those songs a million times. Like I don't need to hear them. I mean, I loved hearing them, but like don't need to go and listen to the songs played live. But having that other level of an experience, so important, so cool. And
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
And so much, and this is they would probably be of an echelon that you know, let's face it, are beyond the small club gig phase, obviously. But just what? So let me ask you this then: what hand would you have in their live sound, or is that because I mean you obviously take control of the tracks and sort of have a hand in that, and then do you then communicate with their live team as well? And
No, so there's a fairly distinct difference between the two, live and studio. They have got their entire live crew, and obviously the band themselves. John particularly is really across, taking the arrangement live, sorting out like the tracks that need to be there. He's actually even playing a lot of it now.
he's got that launch pad, right?
Yeah,
I don't know how people play those.
I don't really understand it either, and I've asked an embarrassing amount of times, and I still don't really understand. But he's got a really good grasp about, you know, translating the studio stuff to the live environment. But I think it's comes with like all bands which have been doing it for as long as they have, and all professional bands, is that they have like a fairly holistic approach to how they go about making music in general. So it doesn't stop with how can we record this? What are the best tones that we can get on this? Is this the right part? Is this right for the song in the studio? It's also too thinking ahead about, okay, well, how's this going to hit? How's this going to unfold when it gets to the stage as well? It's really, really important. Not just making music for the streaming platform, like what we were saying before, not just making music for streaming platforms, but making music for the live experience is value that shouldn't really be ignored at all. But yeah, it would be, I don't know if it's directly part of the conversation while we were working in the studio on these projects, but they're definitely, and even in my mind as well, it's like if there was an opportunity where something was going to be possibly a problem for live or something, I'd always bring it up, always say something about it. It doesn't just stop at the end of when the album's kind of done.
Yeah, of course. And so when you're not working with North Lane, who are some of the other acts you're working with at the moment? I mean, you're constantly busy, you're constantly working. So who else is coming through the studio at the moment?
So in the last year or so, two artists which I've been working on, which is, I kind of think of like what I'm doing in like three different kinds of avenues here. So a big part of it is production, which is all in. You write songs with people, you're an artist, you write songs with them, you produce and record, and then usually go to mix. So there's that part of kind of my involvement with artists. And then there's like a lot of engineering work. I'm fortunate enough to have a drum studio.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, as well as anyone else, like finding a place to be able to play drums in Sydney is becoming harder and harder.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of work with just like zoomed in, really intense like drum tracking. And I do that in collaboration with a lot of other producers. Yeah. Actually all over the country, actually, which is nice. And then there's just mixing. And mixing is great because it's like, you know.
So producers will, some producers will write songs, produce songs in their home studios, whatever, or not maybe home, but their studios. And then they don't have a space to do drums, and then they'll send their drummer to you, and you'll do that.
And then sometimes we'll do the mix as well after, because let's face it, a lot of guitars can be recorded with a small interface.
Yeah,
vocals the same way.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work that's happening in that. But so in terms of the production stuff, when there's an artist which I kind of connect with more, or really at least really feel like I kind of have some value to add and aligns with like things that I like and have some, fall in line with kind of my strengths, I'll kind of go all in with that. Two artists have done that with a lot in the last year is firstly a band called Relica. Mm-hmm. They've actually last week just released their debut album, which
it's amazing.
Yeah, and they got picked up by Nuclear Blast and Grayscale.
Awesome.
They've got a great management team behind them, and they've
I think I played a show with them with Wolf Creek.
Probably.
I think at Crowbar. I think I can't remember who we were on a bill with, but yeah, I think they were on the bill for sure. I think I met those guys. Yeah, they're a great band.
Incredible.
Great band.
They're like, it's weird. I did an EP with them as well a few years ago, and like I spend time with them, and I constantly am forgetting that I'm 10 years older than them.
Yeah.
And, they're like talking about musical influences that I have as well, and their depth and knowledge of music, but also too just experience and taste is just so much. It's so expansive. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun working with them. But we started basically towards the end of 2022, we started working on this album. Spent 12 months on it. Wrote, recorded, produced from the bottom up, and that just came out last week. It's called Secrets of the Future. I think everyone should go and check that out because it's a mixed bag of so many different
Secrets of the Future?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I've done a fair bit of work with them in the last 12 months. Another bands as well, a Newcastle-based band called Vilify.
Yeah, I know Vilify. Yeah. Cool.
Absolute legends. It's so
awesome.
So fun to work with as well. It's just like we usually set out to have an objective of, all right, what are we going to do today? It's like, let's just make the heaviest thing we possibly can. It's like, cool, all right, let's get in and do that. And then
just Meshuggah riffs for days.
Yeah, whatever. And it's like the last little writing weekend we did, had like a playlist of just shit to inspire us. And it was just like the dirtiest, filthiest, like bone crushing shit ever. And it's, all right, let's get in and try and create something that feels cool off that. And it's really like, with them, I love it. It's like so shoot from the hip. It's this feels good today, and we're going to do that. And there's not a whole lot of like, nothing's overthought or overcalculated. It's like, does this make you want to get into a pit and wreck shit or not? Okay, cool. Yeah, we've done it. So they've just released an EP as well called Fever Dream, which is kind of a collection of things that we'd been working on over the last year as well. So those are the main two I've been doing over the last 12 months. There's a few others as well. I'm going to be a bad person, and they're not going to come into my head straight away. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But yeah.
Just to your point with like, figuring out people are going to kind of go mad in the mosh. I remember working with Stevie when we were writing with Wolf Creek stuff in the studio with him. Often he would just like, I don't know, maybe if he'd programmed a beat or we'd written a riff or something, we put it down. He would kind of just stand up out of his chair and just start kind of bouncing. He's like, yeah, you can mosh to this. It's like the mosh test.
I think that like Stevie is really, really good at that. And I don't know if he even knows that he's doing it. Maybe he does. But like so much of the studio thing just gets, both with artists and producers, it just gets so convoluted with thinking about, oh, I want this guitar tone, or I want this techie thing, or this has to be like this, or it has to be this long to do this thing on, sell on this streaming platform, whatever it is. There's like always a weird metric to it. But like really at the end of the day, and as cheesy as it sounds, is that like if your music makes you feel something,
yeah,
that's all that matters. And that doesn't necessarily mean it needs to make you feel sad.
Yeah.
Or makes you like, but it's exactly that. Can I get up? Can I mosh to this?
Yeah.
Is this going to make me want to do something, have a visceral reaction to it live? That's what people need to like focus on. And yeah, Stevie's so good at that. Like his instincts for being able to create a feeling out of music is he's one of the best to do it, I think.
Yeah, and for those listening, we're talking about Stevie Knight, obviously.
Yeah.
He's.
Don't tell him I said that.
I think he might see this, bro.
I think his ears are burning across the road.
What I appreciate about working with him is he's also no bullshit, no nonsense. He's the first person to tell somebody they're focusing way too much on their pedals. They're focusing way too much on a guitar solo. Like he's very quick to scrap things, not in a dismissive way. I mean, he'll hear you out, obviously, of course.
Yeah.
But he's not one to waste time, which is on the things that aren't important. And sometimes, quite frankly, as a artist, whether you're a guitar player or a songwriter or whatever, I think you need to be told that from time to time.
Absolutely.
It's like to be just as a reminder. Even you might know, you get so caught up in this one little thing. It's like, hey man, listen, I know that's really cool for you, but that's not going to be cool for 99% of the people who are listening. They're not going to give a shit. So let's not spend 3 days on this tone that you're trying to achieve. Let's just write the song.
And I think that most artists have a vision or an agenda in mind, which is not to do that. Like then, like the guitarist, which is like sitting around playing, like dicking around with their pedals, trying to find the perfect reverb setting on their pedal board, isn't doing that because they just like playing with pedals. They don't know this, but they're doing that because when they were at home at 3 a.m. in the morning in their little guitar dungeon, they came across something that made them feel a certain way, and it made them, and they just want to translate that and put that out into the world.
Sure.
So I don't think that it's like, I don't think that people, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that people want to do that, but you definitely need to like have someone like Stevie, like a producer, to be able to sit there and go, no, hold on, we've achieved that already. You don't need to do that. We've translated the vision here.
Yeah.
The reverb isn't going to get any better. You know? Like it's not going to do what you think it's going to do. It's not a linear thing where you spend more time, you create more feelings. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, and again, maybe,
be nice if that was the case.
Oh yeah, it'd be good if you could just drum fills, right?
Yeah.
It's like the bigger the drum fill, the bigger the feeling, right? Like, give me all the feelings, right?
Well, there's that one thing that Phil Collins did that probably would still stand up today.
If you could earn royalties off
a drum fill,
or a meme, like, can you imagine it? Like, I mean, man, it's probably like bathing in cash already.
I think he's done okay financially. But yes,
I think I read something the other day. He's like in like the top 5 of like most wealthy musicians of all time or something like that.
I mean, I was about to be like, really? But actually, like, yeah, of course. Like, it's not surprising. Yeah. I mean, he must be top 10 at least. Yeah. At least.
I mean, he came from the right time.
Yeah.
He has that drum fill.
Yeah.
I mean, what part of that doesn't make sense?
Yeah. You know? And some great songs. I mean, he's an amazing songwriter.
Yeah. Phenomenal. Oh, and I guess he's got the vocals thing down as well.
100%.
Yeah, a bit of a weapon, isn't he?
Absolutely. Now, something I want to talk to you about, because I didn't know this until recently, but you've won an ARIA, or have you won 2?
No. And it's not mine. It's North Lane's, and they were ever so kind to include me in having my own spiky thing, which is really cool.
Cool.
And I'm eternally grateful for them doing that. But it's
that was the best album or best.
It was 2019 best heavy metal hard rock album performance. I don't know what it is.
Okay, release maybe.
It was one of the ones that King Gizzard didn't win.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
but I mean, look, and fair enough. I mean, it's. So I'm glad I could ask because I didn't really know the actual details of it, but fair enough that it is North Lane's ARIA.
Well, I just like to think of it that way because.
But you've had an instrumental part in, which is probably why they included you in this thing, because you've had an instrumental part in creating the album.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not playing down the fact that I had an involvement in it, not at all. But there's so much to creating an album, and it's not just creating the album. It's you could create the best album in the world and never leave your bedroom, and what's the use of it? Like those five at the time, those five guys went out and they toured it and they put their heart and soul into it, and they made it. They put the spotlight on that album from everything that they put into their art. So, yeah, while I'm very appreciative and it's very nice of them to include me in, I guess, the material accomplishment of that. That's really nice of them. I definitely believe that it's theirs. And it even says their name on it, it doesn't say my name.
Fair enough. But it's what you're describing is that to get a prestigious award like an ARIA for an album, there's many facets that come into play to go from point A to point B. But you're clearly one of the facets. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
One of many, fine, but still one.
And I think that I don't want to like play down the accomplishment of like how cool it is to be recognized for that,
and to just have that on your mantelpiece or bookshelf, wherever you've got it.
It's amazing.
Do you have it at home or in your studio?
I'm in the studio.
It's such a cool thing to just. I mean, I've never won one myself, but I've seen them and I've held them. And they're fucking heavy. They're fucking sharp. You wouldn't want to have it like laying on the floor where someone would trip. I mean, that would be all over.
I have a funny story about it actually, is that one day I was just like dicking around the studio, just like cleaning up or something. And it's kind of like, I just had it like sitting on top of like my rack. It's like, so it's like, yay high, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I think I was vacuuming or something like that. And I like hit the rack and then it fell. I wasn't worried about it because like it's unbreakable.
Yeah, of course. And they're bloody heavy, yeah.
But it fell and it like fell in front of the rack, took out like 3 knobs off a few pieces of gear and landed on my floorboards. And I still have an ARIA shaped like ding in the floorboards. And it's like this triangle of where the 3 like points hit. And like every day I walk past and it's like this ARIA shaped like.
It sounds like a Final Destination moment. Like you're just vacuuming, you got some headphones on, you're listening to a song, you're like not even paying attention, and then this fucking spike of an award comes crashing down.
Yeah, and like I could have been like, it's like at the bottom where it's on the rack where my patch bay is. So like when you're like patching stuff in and it's on wheels, like I'm usually down on my hands and knees doing that. And I was like, I had this moment of like, if that fell and landed on my head, I'd be dead. Like.
Bro, I remember when I was a kid, and I don't know how old I was. I had some friends for a sleepover. I was in a sleepover period of my life. I don't know if that means, I was 7 years old, 6 years old or something, 8, no idea. But we had, my mum let us wheel in this television to watch a movie or something in bed or whatever. And I went to move the TV so we could see it better. And it was on this trolley. And I got on my hands and knees from the bottom and pushed it, and the TV fell off this thing. And luckily I wasn't hurt, but it crashed behind me. Like I was underneath this table wheeling it around, and it fell over my head, smashed the TV. Of course, Mum heard, came in, and was like, "What the fuck?" Like probably scared and freaked out. But once she realized everybody was okay, she was furious.
And keeping in mind, this is probably somewhere between 1995 and 2000 or something like that.
Dude, I was born in 88, so this could have been 95, 94.
There you go.
It was a TV like this big.
CRT TVs where they were just made of like glass.
It was glass, it was metal, and I remember even I heard the picture tube go pew. And it was this whole fucking thing, this whole deal. And from that moment on, I've had this like internal fear of moving anything from a base with something on top. I really learned a lesson. And I think, now that you tell me that story, it's just kind of brought this back to me.
So when you're on stage and you're trying to move the whole drum kit when it's on the rug, you do the whole trying to pull the rug.
The thing, and then the cymbals come crashing down. So you're probably
sitting there like having a bit of PTSD, like you're going to get a crash cymbal in your face or something.
100%. Like dude, your story gave me PTSD, man. I was thinking about it. So please, if you're going to move your rack around, move your ARIA and put it somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what a problem to have, when I'm cleaning the studio, gotta watch out for the ARIA. So I mean, it's just it's a little funny thing. It's this mark on the floor now, and I guess as long as I'm in that studio, it's going to be there. So
that's cool. So any current things happening in the writing department for North Lane?
I'm not sure. I mean, they're always writing. Like,
Right.
I don't think there's a time where they stop. You know, it's if there's time and there's access to, you know, guitar, computer, all that stuff is just it's. I mean, what creative ever really stops? There's always something going on. But so I don't know. I don't know what's happening specifically there. But I dare say there's probably not too far off something new brewing or something popping off at some point. Like it's never too far between drinks for those guys, I don't think.
Hell yeah, that's exciting, man. And if when you do the recording, you want to set up like my new Tama kit and get a double bass drum kit going.
Can we talk about this kit?
Yes, this is what I'm trying. I'm trying to do the little segue here.
I don't know the best way how you would want to segue into this, but basically you just have an amazing new drum kit.
I do.
And I tried to buy it before you. Mm-hmm. I tried to get in and grab it, but I was too slow, which is always the curse of Marketplace. Mm-hmm. But it is such a special drum kit. And that kit, for any of the other drum nerds out there, Tama Star Classic Babinga.
Yes.
No longer made.
Yes.
Babinga is part of the endangered species list. So they will not be making drum kits out of it unless it's the Star line, I think.
Yes, because I think they have some reserve.
A small amount. But there will be no new supply of Babinga for drum kits.
Yep.
And it is in the pocket where they were making full Babinga kits.
Yep.
Not birch Babinga. It's not the hybrid. It is full Babinga. And to make it even more special, you have the short stack tom sizes as well.
Yeah, it's a 12 by 8, I think.
The best size.
The best, I agree.
Yeah.
I've got a black Tama walnut birch as well. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing, 12-8. But I've got a 10 with that as well. Anyway, look, it's amazing. See, I didn't realize, I know that obviously Nick plays Tama, but I didn't realize he had the Babinga kit in that exact same finish.
Same finish.
It's the same finish.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome. And I've been nerding out on some of his drum playthrough videos. I'm like, oh, it's like my kit, but it's a little different.
Yeah. And is that got the short floor toms as well? Or is it 14, 14,
It's 14, 14, 16, 16.
So it's an even better combo because I do like normal size, like the square floor toms as well.
Me
There's
too.
Something about like that. I think also too, just aesthetically,
they look nice.
Right.
And for me being tall, I do sit quite high.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having it honestly a little bit like it depends on where the brackets are on a 14 by 12, but on the 14 by 12, often I can't get it high enough.
Yeah.
I mean, you always get a bit longer legs, of course, and yeah, fine. But like
it's more stuffing around.
Yeah. But does Nick have a 22-18 or 22-16? Do you know?
I want to say it's 18, but I can't quite remember.
Because mine's a 16, which it's even
man. It's like that's the thing, and there's no. It's not like that's a kit which is really hard to find. That kit is actually a one of a kind kit. Like Tama have never made a package with those exact sizes.
No, I think the guy custom ordered it.
Yeah.
I think it was a custom order, yeah.
Incredible.
But so if Nick does have a 22 by 16, and Nick, if you're listening, we should set that kit up with 2 bass drums, 2 rack toms, 2 floor toms, and just get this monster double bass kit in your studio one day.
Yes, I would love that.
We have to do that.
I would love that. And like, what are the chances of those 2 kits ever being in the same place at the same time? Like out of all the places in the world that those both, the Nick's one especially, could have ended up in. And like I said to you on Insta the other day, like I am genuinely like heartwarmed to know that kit ended up with someone which is not far away. Not that like, not for any kind of like advantageous reasons for me or anything like that, but it's more of like to know that like having knowledge of where that kit is and ended up is like there's like this mystique of like, oh, it could be anywhere in the world type thing is like really cool.
Oh man, and I mean I know that that's not why you were saying it, but I'm more than happy to loan it to you at the studio if you ever need it or whatever. Yeah, I know you've got like a lot of drum kits in your studio, but
I don't know that many, but it's more of a like like even if I got in there before you and got it, I probably would have grabbed it, put it in the corner of the studio, and kind of just had it there like sentimentally. So it's great that like that's the other thing too. Like you're going to put that to really good use. It's not going to like someone who's just going to kind of like hold on to it and be like, I've got this cool kit and I'm going to take it out once every once in a while. Like you'll use it and
100%.
You know, did you end up recording it in the end?
I have done some recordings on it, yes.
What do you think?
It sounds amazing, dude. I put new heads on it, just clear, I think I did clear Emperors on the tops and clear Ambassadors on the bottoms, on the toms, and P3 on the kick. I mean, all very standard, but just it sounds amazing.
Try with that kit particularly. I did this on my acrylic kits as well because it's they're not similar in terms of their makeup, but they're similar in terms of their, I guess, sonics. That kit, try a P3 or like an EC1 or something which has like a single ply with a control ring around the outside of it on the bottom, right?
Of the toms?
Yeah, on the bottom. Because what happens there is it's like the old idea of like adding a little bit of gaff tape to the bottom.
Sure.
But the problem is with that is you can only put it in one spot. So it's really hard to be even about where it goes. But if you put a something with like a consistent control ring around the outside, you still get the sponginess and like the elasticity of a single ply in the middle of the head, but you get this added mass. And what it means is that you can tune the bottom head way lower than what, like the tuning range is extended. So if you're struggling to get like the tom tuned to like be that explosive, like almost kick drum like kind of sound, it's really hard to get the bottom head as low as you need it to be on a single ply head. So give that a shot, just for floor toms, not for rack toms. But
okay, I will try that experiment because what I've been doing recently that works for me is just cotton balls.
Yeah.
And I know that's an old trick and that's nothing new, but I've never actually heard anyone recommend a P3 on the bottom head, so I will definitely try it. I had a similar approach a while ago. I tried a CS dots on the bottom of toms for a same sort, but I feel like maybe a ring around the edge is probably better than a dot in the center. Yeah,
because you still want to. The reason why I said single ply as well is that you still want to have. It's that elasticity. You want the tom to be able to, so it doesn't choke up too much, and it doesn't get like that rigid kind of like basketball-y kind of sound.
Yeah.
Having something that will still like flex and move like a speaker cone almost. That's what the bottom of a drum head's. Sorry, the bottom head of a drum's doing. It's still being able to move freely really helps with that. I don't know, just weird nerd.
And for anybody who listened to that conversation who is not a drummer, I'm really sorry. But
I don't want to hijack your show into a drum podcast.
Don't ever apologize. Talking drum gear is my favorite thing in the world. I just think there's probably a few people out there kind of like falling asleep, but that's hey, it is us in the room now. This is what matters.
You gotta, if you can, on the video, put up a photo of the kit at some point, because it's, even if you're not a drummer, like the look of this kit, it's like, I just think that it's the perfect match of like a classy looking drum kit, but a kit that looks like, you see those kits that like DW are guilty of this all the time. They make these drum kits which are just like so impressive and look incredible, but they're like, I wouldn't want to touch it. It looks too much like a trophy.
Or even just a beautiful piece of furniture as well. It's like, oh man, it's stunning to look at, but one fingerprint on that and you're losing your mind.
Exactly, but that kit looks really classy. It looks like it's such a good looking kit. Anyone will appreciate it. So yeah,
I'll throw a picture up for sure.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this as well, because you're now. So I'm just so excited about Bare Bones doing another show, which I'll be at, as I said before. But any new music coming?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we got into the trap, well, not the trap, but like we kind of just got a little bit complacent over the years and just started like putting out music like once every 2 years or something like that. And now credit to Tom and JD particularly, they kind of spearheaded getting straight back into the studio as soon as we'd finished our last EP. And so there's a new EP. They're brewing another six songs.
Nice.
Which are ready to come out. We started the mixing process a little bit at the moment.
That's really exciting. So you're pretty far down the line then.
Yeah. I mean, I reckon we should see something in the next couple of months. sure.
Awesome.
So,
And then a tour and then a, you know.
yeah, hopefully. I mean, I don't know if there's anything particularly booked in at this point, but I mean, I was in a conversation this morning about music videos, so guess
Hell
something's
yeah.
happening soon. So
That's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and yeah, it's nice to kind of keep up with that stuff. It's one of those things, like back to what I was saying at the start, like your life just gets in the way and you forget, like, you know, I don't make enough time to play drums in my day-to-day life ever.
Yeah.
You know? And this is, okay, we've got the release coming up. I need to get in and record some drums. I need to play drums again. I haven't done that for too long. And the minute you get in there, you're like, oh, I forgot about doing this. And it was like really cool to have like the whole world just kind of like disappear for a couple of days and just be able to like focus on that again.
Nice.
And so it's nicer that it wasn't 5 years in between doing another one, you know, another batch of recordings, you know, it's having it kind of fall up a little bit quicker.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. Oh, that's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to that.
Cool.
Because that album you guys put out, definitely pre-COVID.
Is that the one we did with Stevie?
Yes.
It's called Rival Minds.
That was amazing. It sounded like Pantera. I mean, sonically.
Yeah,
you know,
it's that was like such a good turning point for the band as well. Like it was consciously going, all right, you know, we all grew up on riffs. We all grew up on like metal. Let's make sure it gets its fair share of stuff into our music, because it was silly that it was kind of being ignored a little bit, and that was like a bit of a turning point for that. And I feel from then everything's felt, I would say, more genuine, but it just feels a little bit more at home.
That's great. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And so have you done an EP since then?
So since then, there's been 3 singles.
Yeah.
Which didn't end up on an EP.
Yeah.
They were out. Stevie did one of those as well. We did a couple. Actually, 2 of them happened in lockdown, so we just did them at home and just threw the parts together. That was interesting.
Yeah.
And then we've done an EP since that with a guy called Macca Mackenzie. He's from MJB Audio. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Macca. Mm-hmm. And he did, and that came out last year, and then we've done another follow-up with that.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna say they're gonna be out by the end of the year for sure.
That's awesome. Sure. That's really cool.
I'm not the person to ask about it, unfortunately.
So, and are you producing this one?
No. I try and keep my nose out of it as much as I possibly can. I did the first 2 EPs and the first album back in 2012, between 2012 and 2016, I think. All of that stuff, but it doesn't, to anyone who doesn't really get involved with that, or hasn't spent much time in a studio, or hasn't tried to do the studio thing and the band thing, it's really difficult to do. Be an artist and a producer at the same time on the same project. Yeah. Like you're constantly fighting 2 sides of your brain. You know, you end up in like these like little tailspins of like trying to serve your artistic vision, but also to like, if you're an artist going to a producer and saying, this is what I want to hear, this is what I want to do, make that work. You're trying to keep that side of you honest, but on the other side, you're trying to interpret the vision of everybody else and not be biased against your own thing, and try and keep it relatable to the outside world. It just, it's really tormenting. I don't like it at all.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, I'm not a producer, so I don't even understand that sort of mindset so much. But when I hear the artists do it, I mean, Stevie did quite a bit for the Dead Love. It's would be incredibly difficult to switch between those 2 responsibilities. I mean, you know, as a producer, you're often the voice of reason. You're often the deciding, the final deciding piece of the puzzle in a disagreement or a dispute. You're kind of the guide. You're guiding the band through the process. You're apart from, you know, being a songwriter and an engineer and all these things, but to be able to do that and be the artist whose band it is and songs it is. I mean,
even just from a logistical, logistical aspect, like you like if I'm working for an artist, like this week I've got mixing happening. It's all mixes. It's awesome. I know at 8 o'clock in the morning I'm going to get in there. I've got 3 or 4 hours. I'm going to work on that stuff, and I'm going to probably say it's going to be either 80% done, 90%, whatever it is. I have like a timeline or like a series of validation, checkpoints of where I am in that project of what I'm doing. You don't do that when it's your own. You know, you're sitting there in goblin mode, over like hanging over the corner of your desk, trying to solve a problem that you've been there doing from 9 a.m. That's not to say I don't care about anything else that I'm working on, but at that point, like, days have gone past and you're like, I didn't get paid to do anything today. And like, I don't have a real job right now because my head's in this. And you just like, it's just not healthy for your life.
Yeah. And also it must be nice to be in the studio, but take your hands off the desk.
Oh, absolutely.
And just sit there and think and be part of the songwriting process and have your day to record your drums and then come and hang out and let someone else kind of run the show. And
yeah,
I mean, it must be enjoyable.
I mean, I still got a little bit of it because I've been recording my own drums, and that ends up in a similar situation where like I basically move all my gear into the control room. Into my live room. So I have this like makeshift control room sitting there and it's behind my drums and I'm like trying to engineer and record and monitor things of in-ears and make sure the parts are right. And I mean, I even hate that, but it's kind of the easiest thing so it's more feasible for me to do it than rather than have to go organize someone else to come in and do it. And so that's the balance there, but yeah,
sure.
It's hell. It's horrible. Like I don't understand how. You mentioned Stevie doing it. I went through that with him. What was it like? Yeah, like 2012 or something like that.
Because you were in the Dead Love, obviously, originally.
Yeah. We went to America and we did the thing, and we became the forbidden producers in the band. Want to control everything, and maybe it didn't really work out as exactly where we wanted it to, or maybe it was.
So were you producing when you were in the Dead Love?
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't know that. I thought you started your producing journey after the Dead Love, but you were still okay. So that's even crazy. You got 2 producers in one band.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I like to think that we weren't too like. Too hard to work with. Probably were.
We'd have to ask Clint, actually. Yeah, he might be able to give us the honest.
Yeah, he probably have a better insight to how that whole situation went down. But and like Stevie just like had like this energy to like come back, spend a bunch of time, a bunch of money as well, going and doing all this stuff, delegating it to someone else and be like, you know what? No, I'm gonna get it across the line from where it's at the moment, where we want it to be. Mm-hmm. Psycho. Like, I tapped out at that point. I was like, I helped with a few little things, but I was like, if you want to go for it, man, do it. But like, he still had the energy to do it. Like, and then like after that, everything that Dead Love like continued to do, he was just like front and center doing the whole thing. So maybe it's different for everyone.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't want to do it.
Fair enough, man. Hey, listen, dude. I just want to. We've gone over an hour, so I think we'll certainly wrap it up here. But so excited to see Bare Bones again on June 16th. This episode will definitely come out before then.
Awesome, fantastic.
So for anyone listening or anyone watching, go and get tickets to the Cancer Bats show and get there early to see Bare Bones play. Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
That show is. We've got it's a mates fest for sure. There we've got a new local Sydney band, Urkin Armada.
Yeah,
they are opening the show.
Nice.
They're really good friends. Actually, Mako, who I mentioned before.
Yep,
his bands. Blake Kirby, another friend of ours. All the guys in that band are really tight with Bare Bones. Us, Fangs, Cancer Bats.
Fangs are playing as well. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
everyone's I love those boys.
Great.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's gonna be mad. Except Sam, I don't think he's off overseas. He's on
his honeymoon.
Doing the honeymoon thing.
Yeah.
Half his luck.
Yep. it's quite funny. There is a story that I will share with you off camera. Not about Sam actually, but it's in relation to Fangs. And if Fangs are watching this, I think they'll know what I'm talking about. But I'm not going to say it on camera.
Yeah, okay. keep it safe.
100%. But it's funny. Anyway, man, dude, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. It was really nice to catch up.
So great to catch up, have a little chat. I'm really excited to see Bare Bones. Really excited to hear new music coming from you guys. And of course, always nice to talk about North Lane, one of the biggest and best metal bands in the country.
And drums as well.
And drums.
It's been a while since I had a good old-fashioned drum nerd out on some stuff. So.
Well, I'm not kidding. I'm going to bring that kit to your studio and we're going to set up the double bass monster and we're going to have a fun afternoon.
Let's do it.
All right, brother. Dude, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, bro.